Hello there. I've seen some people talk about how tillweed salve, soothing tea, and fire nettle fronds are bad since you just don't get them very often. Well, I'm here to show you how easy it is to set up infinitely expandable renewable farms for these items. The background footage is me setting up a tillweed farm. First off, some basics about weeds. When planting a plain seed, there's a 20% chance that you will get a weed, 77% of these weeds will be forget-me-nots, and there's a 7.7% chance of getting any of the other ones. Weeds can also spawn towards the beginning of spring and autumn, and the fruit fly lord can also spawn weeds. If a weed reaches its final growth stage, it will attempt to spread by planting a new weed of the same type nearby. Each weed has its own variables that control how often it will attempt to spawn a new weed, how far away it will look for spawning locations, and how far away this new weed must be planted from all weeds of the same type. Regardless of these variables, when spreading, all weeds will first attempt to spawn the new weed on entities with the soil tag. Then if that fails, they'll attempt to spawn at the location on regular farm turf without a soil entity. These soil entities are not the same as the mounds you create by tilling the ground. They are the circles on the farm turf that look partially tilled, as you can see there. We can manipulate these soil entities in a variety of ways. First off, if you till close enough to one, you'll notice it disappears. This is because the soil entity is now in the same place as the mound of dirt you created when you tilled. They are attached in a sense. You can use this to move the soil entities. If you till one unit away from the mound with an attached soil entity, then both of them will move in that direction. If you till one unit diagonally from a mound, regardless of whether or not it has a soil entity, then a new soil entity will be created in the original location of the mound. I'm not sure if tilling diagonally results in the mound also having a soil entity, or if it just creates the one. Either way, you can use this to create as many soil entities as you want and or need. This method is often faster than moving the closest soil entity into place, although when I was creating this farm shown in the video, I hadn't discovered this technique yet. You can also create soil entities when you dig up a weed. Digging up regular plants does not do this, although picking fully grown plants does. I didn't test with rotten plants, so I don't know if they can create or destroy soil entities. You can remove soil entities by tilling close enough to attach them to a mound, then planting a seed on that mound, then immediately digging up that seed. Because the seed isn't of any specific plant type yet, it doesn't count as a weed, and thus the soil will be destroyed. You can also dig up any non-weed plant to destroy the soil. You can also take multiple mounds with soil entities attached and combine them by placing them 2 units apart and tilling in between them. This can be used to destroy multiple soils at once or to reduce the number on your farm plot. So what does all this information do for us? First of all, know that you can just plant seeds and hope for weeds. Weeds of the same type that come out of seeds can be as close as 2 units, which is much closer than they can spread. This is an okay strategy for setting up a forget-me-nots farm, but doesn't really work for the other plants since they have such a low chance of occurring that you'll need an unreasonable amount of seeds. The second and better strategy is to plant as many seeds as you can, wait for them to grow one stage, destroy everything except for the weeds, then manipulate the soil entities to get the weeds to automatically spread as densely as possible. For this to work, you need to have soil entities placed no closer than the minimum distance each weed requires between each weed of its own type. Make sure you place them this way across your entire farm. You also need to remove any extra soil entities to avoid the weeds spreading to the wrong ones and messing with your density. I've skipped forward in the video, so I'm almost done with these 2 tasks in my tillweed farm. The combination of doing these 2 tasks forces the weeds to only spread to these specific soil entities and nowhere else, which means you can just let them grow until they have spread to fill your entire farm turf as densely as possible. Here are the closest you can get each weed to spread. Forget-me-nots can spread 3 units apart. Fire nettles can spread 8 units apart. Spiny bindweed can spread 11 units apart. Finally, tillweed can spread 8 units apart. Now that I've explained all that, I can show you the final product. Here's my tillweed farm in action. As you can see, it works. You can now dig up your original weed and destroy its soil entity, and then let the weeds grow and spread automatically. Do note that it will not take 25 days per growth phase as the long update commands would suggest. These commands seem to not properly update the growth of plants. Some final notes: all weeds spread when they're in the full state, meaning they're fully grown, except for forget-me-lots, which spread when they're in the bolting state. All weeds take between 6 to 8 days to spread, except for forget-me-lots, which take 3 to 5. Weeds that successfully spread the last time they tried take 12 to 14 days, 6 to 8 for forget-me-lots. The forget-me-lots will not produce anything once in the bolting state and can never get out of that state except when they are destroyed. This doesn't mean that the forget-me-lots are unfarmable. If all of them are in the bolting state, simply dig up most but not all of them, wait a few days for them to start spreading again, and then start harvesting the new ones once they are ready. Digging up the bolting forget-me-lots also occasionally gives you one of the forget-me-lots items. The happiness of these plants doesn't seem to matter. This means you can ignore the water, nutrients, and debris in the field. Fire nettles, tillweed, and forget-me-lots will produce one of their respective product 3 to 4 days after being picked. Spiny bindweed doesn't produce anything, so I don't really know why you would choose to farm it, other than looks maybe. The minimum distance between two weeds of different types is the minimum distance between any two crops. This means you can save on space by having one farm turf area for farming multiple weeds. After you have weeds, you can also dig up the farm turf below and around them, then those weeds will be unable to spread any more weeds. That's all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Have a wonderful day.